All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. On the internet, our website is xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And if you'd like to send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is all the way in South Wales in the United Kingdom, where he's up in the middle of the night to share his views with you, X Zone Nation. Jason Chapman is his guest. He was born in the United Kingdom in the South Wales market town of Abergavenny. How do you say that?
Abergavenny, Rob.
Oh, that's easy for you to say. In 1970, Jason had always been fascinated by science and the unexplained. During the 90s, he researched a lot of UFO sightings, both in the UK and the United States. Now, in 1995, he embarked on a road trip to the state of Nevada to learn the truth about Area 51. A massive fan of the X-Files and dark skies and science fiction, Jason started to write in the early 90s articles for various UFO and paranormal-themed magazines. In 2012, Jason set about writing the Angel Committee, developing an entire franchise focusing on the UFO phenomenon and the government cover-up. Jason has also written short stories called Tales from Majestic, set in the wake of the Roswell incident of 1947, and a spin-off from the Angel Committee. He is currently working on the sequel novel, The Angel Conspiracy, as well as developing other writing projects for publication. Joining me now from South Wales in the United Kingdom is Jason Chapman. And Jason, good morning.
Well, actually, good evening to you in Canada. Yes, it is morning here in Great Britain. It's just gone 2 a.m.
Wow. Tell me something, Jason. Now, what was it that thrust you into your love for the paranormal and UFOs and the search for extraterrestrials?
Well, I've always been a believer in UFOs, and I firmly believe that we're not alone in the universe. I think what thrust me into it was the first time I watched Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, yeah.
I was totally blown away by it, and it just got me so hooked and interested on the subject of UFOs. I started to get into it at an early age. I bought some books when I was 10, and I've been hooked ever since.
Tell me, have you ever seen a UFO?
No, I'm afraid not. I have never seen a UFO or had any kind of alien encounters, although I've spoken to people who have, and some of their stories are very interesting. Other stories you've got to take with a pinch of salt.
Now tell me, what is the Angel Committee, Jason?
The Angel Committee is a novel set in 1952. It's set in the wake of the 1952 Washington UFO flap. And it's set in Great Britain, and it follows a Cambridge professor who's one of Churchill's chief scientific advisors. And he basically is asked to chair a committee whose key task is to investigate UFO sightings across the UK. And he soon finds himself knee-deep in aliens and KGB and CIA agents trying to acquire alien tech and learn the truth themselves about UFOs.
Jason, do you think that there is, in fact, a government conspiracy around the world to suppress the truth about UFOs?
I think there is, although, you know, we live in a time where it's hard to put our finger on what exactly they are covering up. Stories like Roswell and Rendlesham Forest do stand out amongst others. there's been plenty of incidents throughout the last 70 years where very credible witnesses have come forward and told their stories about close encounters of the third kind, first, second, and third kind, including astronauts. Even Buzz Aldrin has hinted at the fact that, there's some kind of ongoing cover-up at NASA and the rest of the U.S. government.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered, and I believe that it's these unanswered questions that fuel the conspiracy theory. I'm sure if the veil of secrecy was to be dropped and national security was not at risk, I'm sure that a great number of so-called UFO sightings would be explained. However, I still believe that a very small proportion of all UFO sightings would remain unknown. Jason, stand by. You and I have to take our 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. Exonation, Jason Chapman is our very special guest of this hour. Here's his blog spot, angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk, and on Facebook, the Angel.Committee. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Jason Chapman and I will return on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Don't go away. Jason Chapman is my special guest, X Zone Nation. His blog spot is angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk. And he's also on Facebook and Amazon. All you have to do is just search his name on Amazon, Jason Chapman. Jason, as you and I were talking, a lot of people, including Buzz Aldrin, get us to a certain point where they want to say something, but they can't due to national security and due to their oaths and so on. A lot of respect for a lot of the astronauts, a lot of respect for a number of people within the UFO community. And then there's the fringe dwellers, as I like to call them.
I call them the UFO evangelists.
I love that. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. I mean, there are some really bizarre theories out there, Rob. It's important to keep your feet on the ground.
It certainly
when
is.
dealing with something like UFOs. And, when you do dig deep, and I have dug deep over the years, you do encounter some bizarre people. I happen to know, I know what David Icke is supposed to be very big in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's still big now, but I mean, there are theories like that, and what he goes on about the royal family being
reptilians,
reptilian aliens, which I think is, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I think it's one of the most ridiculous theories I've heard.
I'm going to share a story with you and the X Zone Nation about David Icke. Okay. I had made arrangements for David to be a guest on my show, and this is going back to 1998, I believe. We were broadcasting at the time from News Talk 610 CKDB in St. Catharines, Ontario, which was part of the Affinity Radio Network. And I received a call from the Niagara Regional Police asking me if David Icke was going to be in studio. And I said, no, he wasn't. He was going to be on the telephone. And I was basically asked not to have him on the show.
Right. Why do you think that was?
Well, because he is very far-fetched at times. And what happened was I canceled because I figured, well, if they asked me to do this, there had to be a good reason, so I'm certainly not going to go against the local law enforcement agency.
No, of course.
But there was an unmarked car parked in the back lot of the radio station from 2 hours before we went on air until 2 hours after we went off air.
Well, you know what? I've got another interesting story for you, Rob.
Sure.
Back in the 90s, I used to run an organization called the UFO Investigation Bureau.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to, put an advert out in a magazine over in the UK called the 14 Times.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I used to get all kinds of people used to contact me, but there was one guy that contacted me, and he said the government, in regards to the UFO, the whole UFO movement, is the powers that be that know the truth will have UFO investigators as classed in three, different classes.
Mm-hmm.
I think class one is something like, ignore because they're totally, on the edges of fringe ufology. The second is of stage two would be of persons of interest because, they knows about a bit, but, they're not too much of a threat. And stage three would be threat to national security because they've managed to get hold of some information regarding UFOs, which could, prove what there may be some kind of government cover-up. And I think David Icke could be on, the fringe because I've seen him lecture at the Oxford Union, and he put a lot of people to sleep that day. Another person who gets really, really excited, and he did an interview last year on the BBC during the Bilderberg conference, is Alex Jones. He tends to scream his way through interviews sometimes, and you can't understand a lot of what he's going on about, And he's another. I do like him because he does have a point about a lot of things, but he also, like I said, he screams through TV interviews and radio interviews, and he doesn't come off in a good light when you do that.
No, it doesn't. A person over in the UK that I have a lot of respect for is Nick Pope. I've had the pleasure of knowing Nick for several years now, and he's a down-to-earth guy, and a guy like Nick Pope, you just have to respect. Another one is Philip Mantle. Philip and I go back many years.
Philip's just written me a foreword for the Angel Committee, which I'm going to re-release, and Nick Pope's kindly written me a foreword for the next book. So,
what is your take on crop circles?
Oh, crop circles. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. As far as crop circles are concerned, I have no opinion really, because I've never really looked into them.
I see.
They are interesting. They are very interesting. Some of them are, but as many people know, a lot of them are hoax. But there have been, particularly in the early 90s, in England, there were a lot of crop circles back then, and they were attracting a lot of attention from the media and UFO investigators. And there are a lot of people still investigating, but a lot of times it's just students
having fun.
It's kind of an art form now, isn't it? Some of them are absolutely spectacular crop circles I've seen on the net there. Mm-hmm. But with the internet, you don't know what to trust and what not to trust.
Well, my favorite thing about the internet is it's the biggest septic tank that man has ever created.
You are probably right, Rob, because I think in many aspects it's done the UFO culture more harm than good.
Yes.
Getting back to the fringe, the fringe movement, they have dominated the internet over the last 20 years. And there are people that have got masses of followers, and the internet sometimes is a place for people who want something to believe in, and are willing to believe anything and follow anyone, which is why the likes of David Icke have got such a following. Everyone, the UFO culture over the last 20 years, I think, has been slowly eroded away. Perhaps that's part of the cover-up. You know, I mean, the powers that be thinking, wow, the internet, it's really good. It's really good to have the internet because the truth gets buried even more on the millions of websites, blogs, Facebook pages, and Twitter pages, and other social media.
Tell me, in your opinion, or in any of the research that you've conducted over the years, have you found a link between UFO sightings in the UK and Stonehenge?
There have been a few sightings over Stonehenge. Whether they are actual real sightings, I don't know. But there's a town in down that way called Warminster, which a very good friend of mine, Kevin Goodman, who's another UFO investigator, has been researching for years. And there seems to be a lot of activity down that way. And I think there's a major conference there next year celebrating 50 years of Warminster, because there's been a number of sightings. There are also ley lines down in Warminster and going through Stonehenge. And, of course, as you know, UFOs have been linked with ley lines. As far as Stonehenge is concerned, I haven't found any link between Stonehenge and UFOs. But there are people who believe that Stonehenge is just a part of things like the pyramids and the Nazca lines and Easter Island and other ancient monuments, which have been linked to possible extraterrestrial activity in our past.
What do you think is the most compelling evidence that you have come across that UFOs are real?
I think, again, back in the 90s, this is before Dr. David Clarke managed to get the government to declassify the Flying Saucer Working Party in the Churchill memo he wrote in 1952. I encountered a man who claimed that Churchill was very interested in the subject back in the 50s, and there was a group running. So I knew about the Flying Saucer Working Party before it was declassified. It was just proving it. A lot of material involving UFOs is all about being able to prove that it's real. But it's not a case of whether I've come across information to point to whether it's real. It's all about the belief system. You know, I believe there is an ongoing cover-up, and I'm one of those people that don't need hard evidence to back it up. You know, I'm a believer.
I'm glad you're with us, Jason. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exonation, our guest this hour is Jason Chapman. Here's his information. His blog spot is angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk. He's on Facebook as well as Amazon. All you have to do is just search it and put his name in the search line as Jason Chapman. It's that simple. And Jason and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue our investigation into the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology from our broadcast center here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send us an email, always glad to hear from you, the members of the Worldwide Exonation. Exxon at xzoneradiotv.com. And a couple of things. The new Exxon store is open at www.thexzonestore.com. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.
This is the Exxon Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN-TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Jason Chapman is my guest. Angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk. He's on Facebook as well as Amazon. Why do you believe there's life elsewhere in the universe, Jason?
Well, the last 20 years, in 1993, up until 1993, the scientific community was against the idea of suggesting that there could be other planets outside our solar system. It was up to maverick scientists like Carl Sagan and Arthur C. Clarke and Stephen Hawking to lead the way in saying, yes, there is other planets out there. And in 1993, when they discovered Pegasus B-53, it opened up a whole new idea for me that now what we know, there are actual planets outside our solar system. It's not much of a leap of faith to believe that there is probably life on a good many of them planets. I mean, last year, even NASA have said that every star you see in the night sky could well have a planetary system around it. And there are like 300 or 400 billion stars in our galaxy alone. That's potential for tens of billions of life-supporting planets. You know, it's no longer a question of, belief. It's a question of, there is. But I think the question where everyone asks, well, if there is life out there, where is everybody? But I don't think a lot of people who ask that question don't know how big space actually is. It is very big. And it's just it's just a case of us finding how to navigate that space in a short space of time and be able to go there and back in a lifetime, or, like the Star Trek Enterprise does on Star Trek,
But you know what? I find it rather funny that everyone who wants to believe that there is life on other planets, and I agree with you, the statistics alone assure you that there is life on other planets. However, how do we know the life that we are expecting to exist there really does? For example, we're a carbon-based unit. Maybe on some other planets, it's a silicone-based unit. So we could actually have visitors here on this planet without even knowing it, because we're not looking for a different species. We're looking for people who look like us, or the Greys, or whatever.
Yeah, there are a lot of, lot of these UFO alien encounter stories do have, most of them are consistent with the Greys, and you've got humanoid-looking aliens.
Right.
Physics in this part of the galaxy may be totally different from physics in another part of the galaxy. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a blob of jelly crawling around on a surface; it's still life to me.
Sure.
Of a barren terrain somewhere. Everyone is. I suppose science fiction over the years have helped us build our expectations of what life could look like outside our solar system. Everyone's expecting perhaps is, the Klingon Empire out there somewhere,
right,
or the Romulans, or, some other humanoid-based life form. And it could be totally different. I mean, we've got to remember there are billions of other galaxies out there, which could sustain a life form that we couldn't possibly imagine, whether it's, organic or silicone-based, as you just mentioned, or pure energy, like, how do we define life? We've only got this planet to compare with. We haven't got any other planets yet. Even though we know there are other planets out there, we don't know, what kind of life exists out there.
Take me back to 1947, Roswell, New Mexico, as you see it. What happened?
Roswell, New Mexico, something did crash.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1947, there's been a mountain of speculation which has buried the truth. But the fact what the U.S. military issued that first press release stating that they had a flying disc is, usually the first response is usually the true response. We're talking about trained military observers here,
well,
high-ranking military personnel who would know the difference between a downed aircraft and something else. So the fact that newspaper article came out within hours of whatever it was that crashed is definite indication to me that whatever crashed at Roswell was something so unusual. It wasn't anything what they'd encountered before. It wasn't Russian and it wasn't German. There are so many theories. And then you've had other personnel like Jesse Marcel that came forward in the 1970s to say it wasn't a weather balloon would come down.
But you see, I don't want to, you'll have to excuse me for interrupting here. But when it comes to Jesse Marcel, I don't give him any credibility whatsoever, and I'm going to tell you why. He was the base intelligence officer. He goes out to Brazel's farm, finds all this debris that he can't identify. He puts it into his vehicle, and instead of doing the professional, the absolute necessary point of bringing the debris from the ranch directly to the airbase and maintain the chain of custody, what does he do? He goes home, wakes up his wife and wakes up his kid, and lets them manipulate the evidence.
That's a good point you raised there. Yeah,
that alone, in my opinion, as a former cop, blows that case wide apart. I'm sorry, scrap it.
You think Roswell, nothing crashed there?
Something did crash. Did crash. But
not extraterrestrial.
I don't believe so. Because we're looking at the end of World War II. We know that Fugos that were launched from Japan into the jet stream had made their way several times over into the U.S. In fact, there were people that were killed in, I believe it was the Washington State, by the incendiary devices that these Fugos dropped.
Right.
So that could be one possibility. Project Mogul is another possibility, and people like Kevin Randall and some other Roswell investigators are changing what they thought to be a UFO crash and are now re-examining the Mogul possibility.
Project Mogul was a project which monitored nuclear detonations.
High altitude, that's right. Yeah.
But didn't the Soviets not detonate their first bomb until 1949? That's when they first detonated their first atomic bomb.
I believe that Project Mogul was a preventative measure. After all, the Americans had dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by this point.
Yeah.
The planes that took off to do the bombings, didn't they leave from Roswell?
Yeah, well, that was the first the first nuclear Air Force, the first response nuclear tactical bomber.
So it would only make sense to me that if I could create a nuclear weapon, that I'd want to make sure that my adversaries weren't trying as well. So that's another possibility. Like I said, the biggest bone of contention I have with the entire Roswell case or mystery or whatever you want to call it is the fact that Jesse Marcel, who was supposed to be the base intelligence officer, broke the chain of custody with the evidence. Once you do that, that case is no longer valid. Why did he think that this was extraterrestrial? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody ever decided to ask hard questions. No one. Like, no. I've spoken to Stanton Friedman. I've spoken to Kevin Randall, Schmidt. The list goes on and on and on.
Have you spoken to William Moore? Because he was the one of the key authors in the Roswell incident when he brought the book out in 1980, was it?
I to be honest with you, to be honest with you, I'd have to check her guest list.
Yeah.
You know, and then you had the alien autopsy film.
Oh, that was was when I first watched that, I thought straight away that's fake. I mean, Ray Santilli, who released that film, was just out to fool everyone anyway and make a ton of money from it.
That's exactly it. Follow the money. That's all you have to do, no matter what it is in life that you question. Just follow the money. And
did Jesse Marcel make a lot of money out of the Roswell case?
I don't know, but I know Stanton Friedman is getting his more than his 15 minutes of fame, and he had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago, and I hope that he's doing well. But when it comes to asking questions, direct questions, everybody seems to back away. And when I speak to the other investigators and researchers about the fact of breaking the chain of evidence and custody of the evidence, they say, "Oh, gee, we never thought of that." Why not?
Yeah, well, hard questions need to be asked. I mean, some people do readily believe, without just on hearsay. And the Roswell story is one of those. What you said about Jesse Marcel breaking protocol, it's very valid. You've just given me food for thought.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people out there romanticize about Roswell, thinking, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if an alien spacecraft crashed?" And I'm doing it myself.
Sure.
Tales from Majestic, my short story series, is based in the wake of the Roswell incident and follows, the months and years after that, and I guess I'm no different from any other writer out there. I've been criticised for what I'm doing, as sort of like trying to steer away from the truth. But
I don't think that anybody should fault anyone for the way they perceive an event. This is what makes us all so unique. This is what gives us the power of if. What if you're right and what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
But
you're right. You're absolutely right, Rob. I mean, it's all about the powers of belief.
That's right, and that is the strongest power in the universe.
Yeah, it is. Roswell. What's your take on Rendlesham Forest? Do you think that something did crash or landed at Roswell?
At Roswell or Rendlesham?
At Rendlesham, sorry.
Well, once again, you're talking military. You're talking nuclear arsenals. You're talking high-risk areas, top security areas. Was it? What was it? Was it a craft from another country? Was it a reconnaissance craft? Was it a UFO, unidentified flying object? I don't know. I don't know. That one has quite a few questions that I can't answer.
The problem with some of these cases now, Roswell and Rendlesham, is they happened so long ago.
Yeah.
And
why aren't they happening still?
Nothing new is happening. I suppose that's what's wrong with the UFO culture. I mean, there are so many people who believe but are disappointed at the fact that nothing is happening.
But you see, it's just not the UFO community. I see the same thing in people who investigate Bigfoot, the people who investigate ghosts, hauntings, unsolved mysteries, Oak Island, the pyramids, Atlantis, the Bermuda Triangle. Nothing new in 23 years of me doing this show.
And it's a bit of coincidence that it's started. Things have started to go downhill since the birth of the internet.
Yeah.
Because what did you just refer? What do you refer to the internet?
The septic tank, the world's largest septic tank that man has ever created.
Yeah, and you have got loads of people with wooden spoons stirring that septic tank.
Not to mention dipping it in and tasting what's inside. Oh, that's a horrible thought.
When you investigate something like UFOs or any other paranormal event, you do tend to believe your own stuff sometimes.
Well, I've got to tell you this. We've got to also take our break very shortly. I want to believe. However, I want the evidence to fulfill my need in order for me to believe. Stand by, Jason. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, our special guest all the way from South Wales tonight is Jason Chapman. All you have to do is Google him. Jason Chapman is the name. He's on, Facebook. He's got a blogspot, angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk, and on Amazon. We'll be back on the other side of this short commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Exonation, Jason Chapman is my guest. If you'd like to join him on Facebook, the .angel.committee is the Facebook handle. He's got a great blog spot, angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk. And on Amazon, just enter his name in the search engine, and le voila, you will have Jason Chapman. Jason, great having you with us. Thank you very much for getting up so early in the morning to share this hour with us here in the X Zone.
My pleasure, Rob.
There are so many mysteries out there. So many. This world is in a basic state of chaos these days. People are being inundated with data at a speed that has never been experienced by humans before. Well, not that we know of anyway. So the information is there, and I think that one of the problems that we're having is the condition of the world, and the aspect of extraterrestrials, those who were with us in the ancient times, those that we refer to as the ancient gods or the angels or the prophets or the philosophers. That gives us hope for a brighter tomorrow. And I can't fault anybody for that. I really can't. It's when the people don't take the feelings, the respect, and the humanity and just destroy a person or what they believe in. That upsets me.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people out there who want to shatter everyone's faith. I mean, come on, let's face it. I mean, the UFO culture over the years has just taken a constant battering from people who just, anyone who believes in UFOs is ridiculous.
Well, I'm sure you've heard of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network.
I have, yes.
Okay. One of their directors, and I'm not going to name him, he's the director of the state of Pennsylvania, MUFON. When Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 went missing, he issued a press release that the aliens had abducted the entire aircraft.
Yeah, that's why people take the mick out of people who believe in UFOs, because if anything strange happens, blame the aliens.
Yeah.
No one knows what happened to the missing flight. I wouldn't dare come up with a theory like that. I mean, it obviously went down somewhere. But I think it's going to be one of the great mysteries of the early 21st century.
Another Amelia Earhart.
Well, perhaps they're filming another season of Lost. I don't know. Yeah. That was a bad joke.
Yeah, well, you know what? Sometimes we have to say bad jokes in order to break the seriousness of the situation. We're talking about, nearly 300 souls on board that plane. And my heart bleeds for the family members and their friends who haven't received any closure yet.
No, they deserve an explanation.
That's true, they do.
There is some kind of mystery when you think about it, where it just vanished off the radar.
Yeah.
And then you've got the media who do nothing but speculate. Sometimes the media are worse than the most.
Hey, listen, the new creed in the media is if it don't bleed, it don't lead.
Yeah, the media are worse than some of the most outlandish conspiracy theorists.
That is true.
Half the time, it's the media what's fuel the conspiracy theories.
Well, my friend, you and I have to say so long for tonight. I want to thank you once again, Jason. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I wish you every success in the world. And I look forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. Don't be a stranger.
Okay. See you next time.
Take care of yourself, my new friend. X Zone Nation, Jason Chapman has been my guest this hour. He's in South Wales in the United Kingdom. angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk, on Facebook, the.angel.committee, and on Amazon, just search his name, Jason Chapman, in the search engine. I'll be back on the other side of this news break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.